Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakumullahu khairan to all of you for attending. We just want to welcome you to our masjid, the Gambia and Islamic Community Center here in Smedic. And we want to welcome our brother, our sheikh, our teacher here, Mufti Muhammad ibn Munir, all the way from America. He's come here, and this is the first time he has come to our masjid, so we are very honored to welcome him. And he will give a lecture right now in front of all of you, inshallah, and we hope that this will be the first of many. The charity that is present with the brother here today, Brother Uthman, will be giving a few words, so I'll call him over now, and then straight after that, the Sheikh can start his lesson. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm not going to take too much of your time. You're not here to see me. I know you guys are here to see the Sheikh. But first of all, Jazakallah khair for the masjid for allowing this program to go through, and Jazakallah khair for every single one of you without attending here. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow you to benefit from our beloved Sheikh that's come all the way from Philadelphia. Jazakallah khair. I'm not going to take too long. As you can see, blue all around the building. We're a charity. One Ummah Charity is a UK-based charity which operates on a 100% donation policy, which basically means everything you donate will go towards its cause. We're working over 10 different countries, be it Uganda, Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the list goes on and on and on. We're just here, inshallah, we'll be downstairs. If you have any questions for us, or if you guys would like to get involved, any field trips that you would want to do with us, we're open, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Gambia, or as some say, the Gambia, has a very long and rich history in the continent of Africa and also in the continent of North America. There are many Americans today who trace back their lineage, their ethnicity, and their heritage to the Gambia. There are many towns and cities that have a great deal of fame and repute with regards to Islam, and with regards to Muslims, and with regards to the different traders, explorers, warriors, and all other sorts and assortments of fields of practice with regards to the European mainland, the British Isles or the United Kingdom, Great Britain, North America, and Gambia. With that being said, my experience with Gambian brothers, not too many sisters, and the city of the Prophet Al-Madinah Al-Nabawiyya, or some say Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara, I was fortunate enough to have many classmates from Gambia. وَكَانَ بَعْضُهُم مِنْ أَجْوَدِ الطُّلَّابِ. Some of them were very fine students of Hadith. I had a close brother who was a colleague and a friend in the master's program named Uthman Kamara, who's now, he should be done his PhD in Medina. And alhamdulillah, they were always pleasant people that I have known and seen to be upon the sunnah, to be welcoming, walillahi alhamd. And perhaps one day, if Allah wills, we will be fortunate enough to travel to that country, to encounter those Muslims, and to learn more of our history, the history of Islam and of the Muslims in West Africa, and how a great deal of light spread to the Western world from Gambia. With that being said, may Allah Azza wa Jal bless each and every one of you here tonight, the Imam on down, the Sheikh of the Markaz on down, whether you're Gambian or Gambian not, whether you're of that lineage, ethnicity, heritage or not. May Allah Azza wa Jal make our sitting a sitting which is blessed, a sitting of forgiveness, and most importantly, a means of enlightenment for those who don't know, education for those who are unaware, and reminder for those of us whom have fallen into the snare of heedlessness. The snare of heedlessness, of working, of eating and drinking, of handling our worldly responsibilities, and our minds and our hearts have become a little dusty, a little rusted, and things need to be cleaned off and polished and refreshed through the words of Allah and the words of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. With that being said, brothers and sisters, Jibril alayhi salatu wasalam, we know that he came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the Sahaba specifically in disguise. He came as a learner. He came as a seeker. He came as a man asking questions, but in actuality, he was the teacher. He was the one that came to give education. And he asked the Prophet ﷺ several questions. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ answered him. And Jibril, in the form of that man, gave him a response which was totally unconventional and unorthodox. It was a response which was unbefitting of the learner. Sadaqta. That's right. Yeah, right. That's accurate. And we know that the companions, they said, فَعَجِبْنَا لَهُ يَسْأَلُهُ وَيُصَدِّقُهُ. We marveled. عَجِبْنَا لَهُ. We were taken away. He comes, he asks him a question, and then he verifies what he says. وَيُصَدِّقُهُ. He says, صَدَقْتَ, that you've spoken the truth. I.e., this isn't the proper etiquette of the learner to ask and then say, yeah, that's right. A mistake and an error that many of us do on a daily basis. We ask questions and then we tell the one whom we ask, oh yeah, that's right. Right. Common mistake that many of us make. Jibril alayhi salatu wasalam, in the form of this man who was a wayfarer, a traveler, even though there were no signs of traveling upon him, he broke and he violated many of the conventional and orthodox rules of a learner. Asking and then saying right, sitting in front of him, putting his hands upon him. There are many different things that he did that the companions caused them to have an ajab, to be amazed, for things to be strange. But we know from the story of Musa alayhi salam and Al-Khadir, Musa and Khidr, is that you can't always judge a book by its cover. And as a Muslim, you're not to just live floating upon the surface of things. But oftentimes there's a ta'wil, an interpretation, as something deeper, something more profound from the surface or the crust. And that was Jibril alayhi salatu wasalam coming to teach the Sahaba. And he demanded their attention. He demanded all of their focus. And he wanted them to make sure that they paid attention to everything that their prophet and messenger had said via the questions that he posed towards him. From the last of those questions was the highest station of Al-Islam, the pinnacle of Al-Islam. What is the highest level of a Muslim? Al-Ihsan. He said, فَأَخْبِرْنِي عَنْ الْإِحْسَانِ. Tell me about Al-Ihsan. Explain to me, but most importantly, explain to your companions what Ihsan is. Teach them, demonstrate to them, and illustrate to them, show them the greatest thing that they should aspire and want to achieve as servants and slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Ihsan. And we all know that the Prophet ﷺ informed him of what Al-Ihsan is. But that's not what we want to talk about. And that's not what we want to explain specifically right now. Al-Ihsan, according to the people of knowledge, has two main usages. One, Al-Ihsanu بمعنى الإتقان والإحكام. والمعنى الثاني الإحسان بمعنى النفع والسخاء والكرم. المعنى الأول الإحسان يعني الإتقان والإحكام. والمعنى الثاني الإحسان أي النفع والكرم، البذل، العطاء، السخاء. Al-Ihsan is used to mean two main things, linguistically and also Islamically. As far as the first meaning, then Al-Ihsan means perfection. It means mastery. It means sharpening a thing, honing a thing, and making it the sharpest that it can possibly be. And the second meaning of Al-Ihsan is generosity. It's for you to be munificent. It's for you to be kind. And it's for you to give. And it's for you to exert something from yourself for the help, benefit, and welfare of others. So the first meaning, al-ihsan, al-itqan, is perfection, to master a thing, to sharpen it, hone it, until it can't get any sharper. And secondly is to give, is to exert, is to take something from yourself, whatever that thing may be, and hand it and pass it on to others. So as far as the first meaning, al-itqan wal-ihkam, is to perfect and to master a thing, then the ulama of Islam, they say that's what's meant by this hadith. Al-ihsan is the sharpest, most precise worship that you can offer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ told him. أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. He says, Al-Ihsan, to master your worship, to be the best servant, to reach the highest level of spiritual observance, is to worship Allah like you see Allah. أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه. Worship Him as though you see Him. I.e., it's for you to run towards Allah. It's for you to hurry towards Allah. It's for you to hasten towards Allah through good deeds. How would you worship Allah if you knew that you could walk to Allah? How would your worship of Allah be? What hesitation would you have for sadaqah, for prayer? Would the mu'adhin have to say, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala al-falah, كأنك تراه, as though you can see Allah? Would you have to do that? That's the highest level that we try to obtain, and only a few of us perhaps, wallahu alam, can actually obtain that level. And if you cannot see Allah, if it's not in your power, it's not in your ability, then at least know for sure that Allah sees you. Know for sure that Allah is watching you, i.e., when other people aren't watching you because it's dark, or because there are no cameras, or because no one knows you in this town, or this city, or in this airport, because you're not wearing a thobe and a cap, or a topi, or a kufi, or because your name in your passport isn't an Arabic name, or a West African name, or an Islamic name. No one knows that you're a Muslim. So you can do certain things, you can go to certain places, you can enjoy certain things because no one knows you, even though people see you. Or you're in a place all by yourself. No one is around, no cameras, no one, Muslim, Arabic or not, and you can do things that you wish to do. If you can't run towards Allah, then know for sure you should run from Allah. If you can't run towards Him, run from Him. If you cannot worship Allah with the drive and the initiative to do good deeds, then at least have the fear and the terror to run from the bad deeds. فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. You can't see Him, but know for sure that what? He sees you. So never ever allow Allah to find you in a place that He's told you to stay away from. And never allow yourself to be absent from a place that Allah told you to attend. That's what this hadith means. And it's the highest level of al-ihsan. And a synonym for this word al-ihsan is al-muraqabah. Al-muraqabah is when you know and you realize that you're under total and absolute surveillance. Total and absolute surveillance. And that is Allah Azza wa Jalla al-Raqib, who's watching you, hearing you. Everything that you do is being recorded and written down. That's the highest level. And that was the means of success, rescue, and delivery of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. All odds were stacked against him. The average man from among us would have crumbled and fallen with far less odds than obstacles. The average one from among us would have melted in that situation. But the thing that saved Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, لَوْلَا أَرَّعَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. He saw the ayat of his Lord. He knew that Allah was watching him. He knew that he was under surveillance. So this is the first meaning of al-ihsan, which is al-itqan, al-ihkam, is to master your ibadah, perfect your ibadah, as if it was something tangible, like a knife, and you consider it, or you make it sharper and sharper, and you hone it to perfection upon the whetting stone, and it can't get any sharper. And it keeps a sharpness, and there's never ever any dullness associated with this blade, speaking metaphorically. And the second meaning of al-ihsan, the ulama of Islam, they say an-naf'u is benefit, is benefit. And it doesn't have to be of monetary means, monetary assets, money, dollars or pounds or francs or euros. It could be al-ihsanu bil-badan. It's to help someone with your physical body. Al-ihsanu bil-jah is to help someone with your clout, your name. Someone's trying to go to the Islamic University of Medina. You write them a letter. You put in a good word for them. A brother's trying to get married. Brother Fulan's a good brother. Your jah, your status, your name, your clout. A businessman, one who wishes to start off a business. He's an entrepreneur. The first step is always the hardest step. He needs a capital. It says, help him out. I know him. That's my uncle's neighbor. Such and such knows him. He's a good brother. You put in a good word for him. Al-ihsanu bil-jah. And then we have al-ihsanu bil-mal, of course, with the money, the charity. Last but not least, al-ihsanu bil-ilm. It's to be magnificent, it's to be benevolent, it's to be generous with your knowledge. And that is teaching the knowledge, spreading the knowledge. And many of the pious predecessors, they used to say, عَلِّمُ النَّاسَ مَجَّانًا كَمَا عُلِّمْتَ مَجَّانًا. عَلِّمُ النَّاسَ مَجَّانًا كَمَا عُلِّمْتَ مَجَّانًا. Teach the people for free, just like you were once taught for free. Teach the people for free, just like you were once taught for free. And there are many, many other things that they said with regards to a person who reaches a level, who reaches a status, in which he or she has obtained a great deal of ilm. قَدْ اسْتَكْثَرَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ اسْتِكْثَارًا. A good amount of knowledge, and now it's time to give back. And that is, وَأَحْسِن. Allah says, and be good. وَأَحْسِنُوا. Practice al-ihsan. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. Like Allah gave you ihsan. So whenever you read the word ihsan in the kitab and the sunnah, it's going to have one of these two meanings. The first is mastery of your ibadah, and the second one is going to be benefiting others. Al-ihsan. You find a book overseas in the Prophet city, it's printed for free, and it says, Tubi'a ala nafaqati ba'd al-muhsinin. This book was made, it was given out upon the nafaqah, it was funded by muhsinin, by generous, wealthy people. So with that being said, knowledge, our physical bodies, our wallets, our pockets, our purses, the bags that we have with us, women, things like this, our name, our status, any way that we can help people out, that should be our legacy. And that should be our mission statement, is to help and to improve the quality of the lives of the people whom we encounter. You may not have the money to give, but you can give your body. You may not have a strong physical body. You may be physically tied up. Help with your money. You can't help with your money. You can't help with your body. You can at least help with a good word, your jah, your status. And a wise man, he once said that a good word is better than gold. A good word is better than gold, i.e. a person who makes a promise and he keeps his promise and he gains a reputation for keeping his promise is better than solid gold. There's never a time in which he'll be without money because it says, let me borrow such and such amount of pounds and I'll pay you back in a year. And you know, you trust he's going to give me back my money. Rather, in most cases, he's going to give me back more because he has a good word. Good word is better than solid gold. So with that being said, brothers and sisters in Islam, it's very important for us to make it our legacy and our job, bidnillah, to obtain this level of al-ihsan, is that we worship Allah in a perfect manner. We worship Allah as He should be worshipped, and that we make sure that we do everything that we can to help out others. Everything that we possibly can to help out others, and not to discriminate in helping out people. Not to discriminate in helping out people. And this is one of the greatest messages of knowledge, of al-ilm. It's supposed to bring happiness. And it's supposed to remove misery and suffering. Allah says, Taha, ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'ana litashqa. Allah says, Taha. And many of the ulama of al-Islam, they say that Taha was one of the names of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As if Allah said, Ya Muhammad, ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'ana litashqa. Just like Allah says, Yasin. And the very next verse, or the verse it says, Innaka, you are from the Mursaleen. We're not here to discuss the tafsir of these ayat. Was Taha one of the Prophet's names? Was Yasin one of the Prophet's names? That's not the point. The maqsood is that Allah Azza wa Jalla for sure is speaking to the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'ana litashqa. We didn't give you the Qur'an to be miserable. We haven't revealed the Qur'an to you for you to suffer and for you to be depressed and sad and down and blue. That's not why we sent the Qur'an down to you. So one of the signs of beneficial knowledge is that it makes you happy. It raises, it uplifts you. You feel good when you hear it. You feel good when you leave the class, when you leave the lecture. The khutbah, you feel spiritually invigorated. And one of the signs of knowledge which is of no benefit, and which it really isn't beneficial knowledge, is that it makes you sad. And it makes you feel down and depressed, or makes your heart harder. And you feel nothing more than hatred and rancor and malice against others. And oftentimes against those who are closest to you. Against those who are closest to you. Knowledge is supposed to make you a better family member. Knowledge is supposed to make you a better neighbor. Knowledge is supposed to make you more pious, more righteous. And it's supposed to make you a greater servant of the people with the ihsan. Help them out physically. Help them out financially. Help them out with your word. And help them out with your knowledge. And this is the mark of the ulama of Islam. Anyone who knows a teacher or an ustad in the Islamic University of Medina, you go to his house, he helps you out with something. Whether it's a question that you have, there are some teachers who may give some of their students sadaqah. They give them sadaqah, they give them zakat money or things like this. Or they put in a good word for them, a tazkiyah. They put in a good word for you. And oftentimes you may find someone that physically helps you out. And alhamdulillah, when I was in Medina, I experienced all of those levels. Walillahi alhamd. Each and every one of those levels from many of my teachers and many of my mashayikh. So with that being said, I think the topic of tonight's talk is the house of knowledge, something like this. I'm not absolutely sure exactly what this is, the house of knowledge, what's meant by that, or how we're supposed to speak on this. But what I'm going to do, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, I'm going to give you some beautiful kalam from one of my favorite authors, if not my favorite author in the history of Al-Islam, Ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, with regards to knowledge. And knowledge is, it's postcode, they call it here, right? In America, we say address. Here, the brothers say postcode, right? The postcode. Where does knowledge live? Does knowledge have a house? Does it have a bait? Is it contained within a building? Ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, the great grand imam, he says, وَالْعِلْمُ تَرَكَةُ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ وَتُرَاثُهُمْ وَأَهْلُهُ عَصَبَتُهُمْ وَوَرَّاثُهُمْ وهو حياة القلوب ونور البصائر وشفاء الصدور ورياض العقول ولذة الأرواح وأنس المستوحشين ودليل المتحيرين وهو الميزان الذي به توزن الأقوال والأعمال والأحوال والحاكم المفرق بين الشك واليقين والغي والرشاد والهدى والضلال به يعرف الله ويعبد ويذكر ويوحد ويحمد ويمجد وبه اهتدى إليه السالكون ومن طريقه وصل إليه الواصلون ومن بابه دخل عليه القاصدون به تعرف الشرائع والأحكام ويتميز الحلال من الحرام وبه توصل الأرحام وبه تعرف مراضي الحبيب وبمعرفتها ومتابعتها يوصل إليه من قريب وهو إمام والعمل مأموم وقائد والعمل تابع وهو الصاحب في الغرفة والمحدث في الخلوة والأنيس في الوحشة والكاشف عن كذا والغني الذي لا فقر على من ظفر بكنزه والكتف الذي لا ضيع على من آوى إلى حرزه مذاكرته تسبيح والبحث عنه جهاد وطلبه قربة وبذله صدقة ومدارسته تعدل بالصيام والقيام والحاجة إليه أعظم منها إلى الشراب والطعام. قال الإمام أحمد رضي الله عنه: الناس إلى العلم أحوج منهم إلى الطعام والشراب، لأن الرجل يحتاج إلى الطعام والشراب في اليوم مرة أو مرتين، وحاجته إلى العلم بعدد أنفاسه. وروينا عن الشافعي رضي الله عنه أنه قال: طلب العلم أفضل من صلاة النافلة، ونص على ذلك أبو حنيفة رضي الله عنه. وقال ابن وهب: كنت بين يدي مالك رضي الله عنه فوضعت ألواحي وقمت أصلي، فقال: ما الذي قمت إليه بأفضل مما قمت عنه؟ ذكره ابن عبد البر وغيره. واستشهد الله عز وجل بأهل العلم على أجل مشهود به وهو التوحيد، وقارن شهادتهم بشهادته وشهادة ملائكته، وفي ضمن ذلك تعديلهم، فإنه سبحانه وتعالى لا يستشهد بمجروح ومن ها هنا والله أعلم يؤخذ الحديث المعروف يحمل هذا العلم من كل خلف عدوله ينفون عنه تحريف الغالين وتأويل المبتلين وحجة الله في أرضه ونوره بين عباده وقائدهم ودليلهم إلى جنته ومدنيهم من كرامته ويكفي في شرفه أن فضل أهله على العباد كفضل القمر ليلة البدر على سائر الكواكب وأن الملائكة لا تضع لهم أجنحتها وتظللهم بها ولقد رحل كليم الرحمن موسى بن عمران عليه الصلاة والسلام في طلب العلم هو وفتاه حتى مسهما النصب في سفرهما في طلب العلم حتى ظفر بثلاث مسائل وهو من أكرم الخلق على الله وأعلمهم به وأمر الله ورسوله أن يسأل المزيد منه فقال وقل ربي زدني علما. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he speaks on knowledge and its virtue, its excellence, its necessity, and most importantly, its reality. He speaks on knowledge, its virtue, its excellence, its necessity, and most importantly, its reality. What is knowledge? And what does knowledge do for a servant? What does it do? What type of house would become of your house or this house if it is founded upon knowledge? And the constitution upon which it is raised and erected is knowledge. Some of the ulama of Islam, before we read Ibn Qayyim's Kalam in English, they put in the beginning of Jami' Tirmidhi, Imam Tirmidhi's book, which is often referred to as a Sunan, but the more correct terminology is Jami'. Some of them quote At-Tirmidhi by saying, من كان في بيته هذا الكتاب فكأن في بيته نبي يتكلم. He says, whoever has my book, this book of mine is in his house, as if he has a talking prophet in his house. As if it's a Nabi who's alive and speaking in his household. My first year in the College of Hadith, there was a student in my class who read this, and he said to the teacher, he said, yeah, Sheikh, he says, this is inauthentic. At-Tirmidhi never said this. لا يوجد في النسخ المعتمدة, etc. And he says, in this kalam is a khata. The teacher, the Sheikh, he says, no, it's not a khata. Whether Tirmidhi said it or not, kalam sahih. Whoever has this comprehensive work, this exhaustive work of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, فَكَأَنَّ فِي بَيْتِهِ, as if in his house is a prophet that's talking with regards to Allah, knowing Allah, loving Allah, worshiping Allah, praying, cleaning yourself. How do you dress? How do you sleep? How do you eat? Life as a Muslim. In other words, his book was so thorough as if he had a prophet teaching him the correct way. So Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah talks about the reality of knowledge. He says, first and foremost, knowledge is tarikatul anbiya'i wa turathahum. It's the inherited wealth. It's the gold coins, the gold guineas, the silver shillings. It is the pounds, the money that's left behind from the prophets. As if you are a blood heir, as if you're part of their lineage, as if you're a relative of the prophet when you learn his true legacy. As we have explained the other night, that the Prophet ﷺ said, Inna ma'ashir al-anbiya'i la nurath ma taraknahu sadaqa. The Prophet says, the assembly of prophets, including myself, la nurath. There's no monetary inheritance. No one inherits from us. Our daughters, our sons, our cousins, our uncles, no one takes wealth from us. مَا تَرَكْنَاهُ صَدَقَةً. That which we leave behind, the few possessions that the Prophet left behind, material possessions, were given out as sadaqah. So the first virtue of knowledge, it is as if you're an heir of the Prophet. And what Muslim can raise his or her hand and say, I don't want that. You don't want to be attributed to the lineage of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is found in another authentic hadith. The Prophet ﷺ says, وَمَنْ بَطَّأْ بِهِ عَمَلُهُ لَمْ يُسْرِعْ بِهِ نَسَبُهُ. If your lineage slows you down, your deeds make you slow, your lineage won't speed you up. Meaning the true lineage that is beneficial is the lineage of ibadah. How righteous you are, not your actual blood and your DNA. وَمَنْ بَطَّأَ بِهِ عَمَلُهُ لَمْ يُسْرِعْ بِهِ نَسَبُهُ. You're high-born, noble lineage, but your deeds are slow and low, is of no use. So how many people did they claim ascription to the Prophet ﷺ? How many people did they say as-Sayyid, as-Sharif? And maybe many of them are related to the Prophet ﷺ, perhaps. Everyone wants to claim, I'm related to the Prophet. I'm related to the Messenger of Allah. I'm related to Ahlul Bayt. But their ibadah, their knowledge, their piety, their righteousness is oftentimes a different story. And we all know how the Imam of the Masjid, who has 6 sons, and oftentimes his 6 sons are the last of the sons in the Masjid. They are the most ill-behaved of the children in the Masjid. They are the laziest and the slowest to learn. Oftentimes they're disrespectful to their elders, and they know that my father is the Imam, and you're not going to say anything to me. My father is the Imam. You won't dare discipline me. You won't dare tell me to sit down and be respectful. You won't dare say anything because of my lineage. Oftentimes, good lineage, quote unquote, is a handicap against you, oftentimes. And it gives a person a false sense of security. Because I'm related to this person, I don't have to work as hard. Because I'm related to that person, I don't have to try as hard. And it's one of the reasons why we find many of the pious predecessors and the ulama who came after them, many of them كانوا من الموالي. They had lineage that wasn't the highest. You'll find fulan muhaddith, fulan faqih, this tilmeed, this one. He came from a lineage of a person that was a slave. His father or grandfather was manumitted, and he was the faqih of his time. He was the mufassir of his time. This is iqra'u yani anfusikum. Don't take this from me. You'll find it inshallah ta'ala. And oftentimes you find those with the noblest of lineage, the exact opposite. The exact opposite. So first and foremost, the first virtue of knowledge is that it is the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ. It's the tariqah. Rather, not only is it that which you inherit from the Messenger of Allah, but he says, Al-Anbiya, all of the prophets. All of the prophets. Ibn Qayyim then says, وَهُوَ حَيَاتٌ قُلُوبٍ, and it is the life of the hearts. I.e., a person could have a heart, could be living, walking, and talking, but actually be dead. Could be dead. It could be a shell. You go to work, come home, you pay bills, and that's it. There's no internal life. There's no spirituality. There's no pleasure. And this, I would humbly say, is one of the most common reasons why many people accept Islam. Why did you become a Muslim? They says, because I was miserable. I couldn't go to sleep at night unless I listened to this, unless I watched that. I would drink alcohol, smoke drugs. I did this, I did that. And nothing made me happy. Nothing gave me a sense of purpose and value except for Al-Islam. The first time that I heard the Quran. Whack at that. وَنُورُ الْبَصَائِرِ. Ibn Qayyim says, and it gives you the ability to see clearly when it's foggy outside, when it's dark outside. Your spiritual high beams is beneficial knowledge. People, they ask, who do I take from? Who do I learn from? Who do I sit with? Who can I study with? Where can I go? What do I do? What? They ask these questions. But how many people are willing to sit down for 10 minutes and learn and study? Instead of asking about this person and this, let's open up Sahih Bukhari for 10 minutes. If you ever wanted to weed out the people and filter out the people, just do that. Do that. Let's sit down for 10 minutes, then we'll talk about this issue and that issue. Let's learn some more, and then perhaps you can have better eyesight and how to navigate through all of the confusion in our common and modern world. وَشِفَاءُ الصُّدُورِ, and knowledge is the cure for the illnesses and the cancers and the sicknesses contained in our hearts. From them is jealousy, hasad. The more that you know Allah, inshallah ta'ala, the less hasad you'll have. And that's because you know that Allah is the one who is Al-Mannan, Al-Wahhab. He gave this man handsome looks. He gave him physical strength. He gave this person money. He gave this person ilm. So it's foolishness for me to envy you. It makes no sense. You have nothing to do with the blessing. Allah gave it to you. It has nothing to do with you. And you also know deep down in your heart and your mind is that Allah who gave it to this one has the ability to give it to me. And you also know deep down in your heart and your mind that Allah gave this man a virtue, but that virtue also has a flaw. And He gave another person another virtue that man doesn't have. How can you have hasad or greed? Greed or tama, jasha. You're greedy for money, you're greedy for status. And you know that the servant can only take but so much. And you're not going to get anything except for what Allah has decreed for you. إِنَّهُ لَن تَمُوتَ نَفْسٌ حَتَّى تَسْتَكْمِلَ أَجْلَهَا وَرِزْقَهَا. The Prophet says no one is going to die until they reach their full life and until they get their portion of sustenance. There's not an extra dollar or $1 lesser of what's made for you. So any type of sickness in the heart, the more knowledge you have, bi'idhnillah, and it's beneficial knowledge, and you're implementing it, is going to be a means of cure, shifa. It's going to cure the illness that you're suffering from in your heart. Or riyadul uqul, and it's the exercise of the minds. The exercise of the minds, the mental chess, the mental sparring, the mental gymnastics. You like to think. You like to use your brain. You like to use your mind. You like to be smart. You like to flex your intelligence. There's no better place than knowledge. There's no bigger gym than the gym of ilm. Because there's so much to read, so much to study, so much to understand. And you may think it's just, oh, you just memorize a book and that's it. Or you memorize a hadith and that's it. Abadan, abadan, abadan. There's a great deal of thinking, a great deal of deducing, a great deal of pondering that you have to do on one single hadith. One single hadith. And that's why the smartest people that you'll find are those who have memorized the Quran. And from the smartest people that you'll find were those who devoted themselves to knowledge, especially the Arabic language, because it's so in-depth, it's so complex. So if you ever want some mental stimulation, there couldn't be anything more stimulating than the sunnah of the Prophet and the knowledge of al-Islam. Alimahu man alimahu, wa jahilahu man jahilahu. Those who know it know about it, and those who can't get beneath the surface, they don't know about it. It wasn't meant for them. Ibn Qayyim, he says, وَلَذَّةُ الْأَرْوَاحِ, and it's the pleasure of the souls. That's the true pleasure. No matter how much you drink, no matter how much you enjoy your sexual desires, no matter what luxurious things you have, it's nothing like the sweetness of knowledge. And this is applicable even in a worldly life. The best thing is a good book to read, better than the most advanced and expensive film with the biggest budget. The film could have $1 million of CGI. It's never going to be as fun as reading the novel. It's not going to be as fun as reading the book, because it's not the case. And I'm talking about Islam now. The book versus the movie. The book is always going to be more fun. And that's because you have to use your imagination to see the character. You have to use your imagination to translate the description of the character, how the person looks. Whereas the movie, they're showing you who the actor is. It's not stimulating your brain the same way. It isn't the same ladha. The sweetness isn't the same of knowledge versus something being presented to you. That's the point that we're trying to make, huh? The point that we're trying to get to. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah he then says, and it is a means, he says, وَأُنْسَ الْمُسْتَوْحِشِينَ وَدَلِيلُ الْمُتَحَيِّرِينَ, and it is the guide of the confused and the companion of the lonely. The companion of the lonely and the guide of the confused. As far as the companion of the lonely, then we've just explained that. Anyone who's ever been locked up, if you've ever been incarcerated, you know one of the most useful things to have in prison is a what? A what? There's no doubt about that. A book. How lonely you are, how far you are from civilization and your family, that book keeps you up those long, cold nights. And you become addicted to reading and benefiting and studying. There's no doubt about that. That book is better than any companion that you could possibly have. You can have someone who's a companion and you don't want to talk to. Or they're obnoxious and annoying. They don't know when to be quiet. A book never ever disagrees with you. A book doesn't fight with you. A book doesn't bicker with you. A book only gives when you want it. It's uns. So this is any worldly book. What do you think about Fath al-Bari, Sahih Bukhari, and what you're reading every single day about the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba? How much company would you have? And the dalil, the guide of those who are confused, we just explained that. وَهُوَ الْمِيزَانُ الَّذِي بِهِ تُوزَنُ الْأَقْوَالُ وَالْأَعْمَالُ وَالْأَحْوَالُ. Knowledge is the scale with which statements, actions, and situations are weighed. This statement, is it right or wrong, good or bad? Let's pull out our scale. This action, is it sunnah, is it bid'ah, is it correct and incorrect? Let's put out our scale. This hal, what a person is upon, what this one is upon, let's pull out our scale and let's weigh it. Knowledge, it never fails you. It never makes a mistake and it never makes an error. Ibn Qayyim says, وَهُوَ الْحَكِمُ الْمُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ الشَّكِّ وَالْيَقِينِ. It's the thing that splits and differentiates between doubt and certainty. وَالْغَيِّ وَالرَّشَادِ, righteousness and wickedness. وَالْهُدَى وَالضَّلَالِ, guidance and misguidance, etc. Ibn Qayyim says, with knowledge, Allah is known and Allah is worshipped. You can't know Allah unless you know Allah. You can't know Allah unless you know Allah. And knowing is a manifestation of Knowledge of ilm. It's the means of worshiping Allah, for Allah to be mentioned, for Allah's tawheed to be manifested and actualized, for Allah to be praised and lauded. It's the means of guidance of those who wish to travel to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, etc. Ibn Qayyim, he says, knowledge is the means of knowing the halal and the haram. The rules of Allah. Is it permissible? Is it impermissible? People, they ask, can I have a house on a mortgage? Is it permissible for me to buy a house on a mortgage? Is it interest? Is it usury? Is it riba? Is there a certain percentage, APR? They ask these questions all the time. How many from among you has devoted 60 minutes to sit down and read the articles and the research papers online on Islamic finance and buying or purchasing a house or mortgage? The question that you ask is clear, but have you actually given yourself the opportunity to learn, tata'allam, to actually read about what is bad or good, permissible or permissible about mortgage? Knowledge is the key between knowing the house that you can have and the house that you can't have. What is or what isn't interest? What is halal and haram to invest in? You have to have knowledge to know that. And if you're unwilling to sacrifice your time to learn, you're undeserving of a thorough answer. Listen carefully. You're undeserving of a thorough answer. You may get a fatwa. Someone may translate something to you. Someone may tell you something. You can't have this house. You can't have this type of credit card. You can't have a credit card at all. But you can't get the yaqeen, which is cool upon the heart, unless you yourself have read and studied. Unless you have given something to get something. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he says here, knowledge is a means of family relation. Tusal al-arham. For the wounds, the kin, the kith, for there to be true respect between father and son, mother and son, uncle, aunt. The people who all come from one womb, one bloodline. The true way of keeping good family ties is through knowledge. It's through knowledge. Moving forward. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he makes a very interesting point here in his discussion. He talks about deeds and how deeds come after knowledge and not the opposite. We come from a place in which many brothers, they'll say things and then later on they'll say, well, I didn't know. I was advised to say this, so I said it, but now I know differently. Well, isn't knowledge qabla al-qawli wal amal? Isn't that supposed to come first? You're supposed to know before you speak about an individual or a situation, and not the opposite. Talk about a person and say, oh, well, I didn't know. They told me to say this. That's not the proper understanding of knowledge. Knowledge is the imam. And amal, what you do, must come what? Must come afterwards. How many groups and how many sects in the histories of Islam, or the history of Islam, have went astray because of this principle? They do something and then they search for the proof. They believe something and they search for the evidence from the Quran. And obviously this backwards way of thinking and acting has a huge impact on your interpretation of the text that you're actually using. And if you study the history of the different sects in Islam, you'll find this major problem. Is that they believe something, they practice something, then they search for the proof and evidence, and that backwardsness has an effect on their understanding of the proof and the evidence. So they disobeyed by doing something before knowing it, and then they didn't interpret the words of Allah correctly, and didn't understand the Prophet ﷺ's hadiths correctly. He says, knowledge is the leader, action follows. Knowledge is the friend. Knowledge is the one who talks to you. It's your confidant. It's the one who speaks to you. It's the one that keeps a secret, etc. He says here, making mudhakara, reminding yourself of knowledge, reviewing knowledge, revising knowledge is tasbih. It's as if you're saying subhanallah, searching for knowledge. Seeking knowledge is jihad, fighting in Allah's cause. And seeking it is a means of worship. And giving it is a means of sadaqah. Al-ihsanu bil-ilm. Al-badhl. To give knowledge as if you're giving physical charity. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he then says, studying knowledge is equal to fasting, it's equal to prayer at night, and people need knowledge more than they need food and drink. You need the ilm of Allah and His messenger of the deen more than food and drink. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, he said, people need knowledge more than food and drink. And that is because a man may eat once a day, twice a day. Look what Imam Ahmad, it's only mentioned twice. And it's not mentioned 3 times, let alone 4 times like we eat. 4 square meals a day. Dessert, a snack, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Once or twice. He says, but a person needs knowledge as long as he or she is breathing. بِعَدَدِ أَنفَاسِهِ. As long as you're alive and breathing, you need to know what time to get up and make salah, what time to go to sleep. When you're driving a car, you need a GPS, you know which way to go. You always need knowledge and information, as long as you're breathing. And the moment that you don't need knowledge, you're not going to be a part of this world anymore. Ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah, he then quotes Shafi'i, he quotes Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, with regards to the virtue and the superiority of knowledge. And what I want to conclude with is a tremendous point. He says, وَقَدْ رَحِلَ كَلِيمُ الرَّحْمَنِ مُوسَى بن عمران عليه الصلاة والسلام في طلب العلم هو وفتاه. He says that Musa, the Kaleem of Ar-Rahman, Allah spoke to Musa directly. He traveled to go study with a person who was more knowledgeable than him, who was greater than him, who was a bigger prophet and messenger than him, right? Right? No, that's not true. What I just said was wrong. The one whom he traveled towards was not more knowledgeable than him. He had a few things that he knew that Musa didn't know, but he wasn't absolutely more learned than Musa. The man whom he traveled towards, the ulama of Islam, they differ whether he is a prophet or not. يختلفون في هذا. They differ. No one differs, was Musa what? A prophet or not. Rather, they unanimously agree he's min ulul azm, from the major prominent messengers and prophets. But they differ on whether Khidr is a prophet or not. Right? Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, him and his young servant, they traveled to study with this man for a week, right? A month, a year, to become a full-time learner with this man, correct? No, incorrect. He didn't study with this man for a very long period of time. He didn't go to become a permanent learner with this man. Ibn Qayyim says he only traveled to do and to get how many things? He says, ثلاث مسائل. 3 issues, that's it. 3 points. And it wasn't considered to be a waste of a trip. And he became extremely tired and hungry and exhausted, and they were worn out. لَقَدْ لَقِينَا فِي سَفِرِنَا هَذَا نَصَبًا. We became exhausted and hungry. They lost the fish, etc. And that was the sign that we're looking for. So Ibn Qayyim, he says that Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, حَتَى ظَفِرَ بِثَلَاثِ مَسَائِلٍ وَمِنْ أَكْرَمِ الْخَلْقِ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَأَعْلَمِهِمْ بِهِ. Musa only got 3 points from Khidr. And we all know that Musa had one of the highest and greatest levels of status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, Musa, whom he was, and he only got 3 issues from Khidr, how about me? And how about you? And how much knowledge will you obtain by traveling for a month? By traveling for a week? By traveling for a year? By going to the Islamic University of Medina or wherever else you go to travel for 5 years, for 6 years, how much knowledge would you get? How much beneficial information would you get from sitting in a library for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours straight? No texting, no messaging, you're just reading a book, no tablets, no electronics. If you sat in a library for an entire day, how much ilm would you obtain? How better of a Muslim would you become? How more knowledgeable and righteous would you become? And what will be the quality of your spirituality? So that's the maqsood, brothers and sisters, with regards to knowledge, its virtue, its excellence, its reality, and what knowledge does for and to the slave and the servant. How to seek knowledge, people ask. Where to seek knowledge, people ask. What books to read, what scholars to sit with, what students should we learn from, etc. All of those technicalities and those specifics have been explained and expounded upon in detail in other sources, other works, other lectures, other books, and by other speakers as well. The only thing that I wanted from this lecture was to inspire, was to encourage, was to incite, was to enlighten and to remind each and every one of you of the sheer beauty of knowledge and the excellence of knowledge, and how knowledge is the thing, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, which is the initial cure behind all of our countless problems. All of the problems that we suffer from, knowledge is the first step, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, in overcoming those problems and those issues. Thank you very much for your time, for your attention, for your attentive listening, and for your respect. Jazakumullahu khairan. جزاكم الله خيرا.
We want to say Jazakallahu khairan to the Sheikh. We really, mashallah, benefited a lot from what we've heard today. And I think what remains from the person who hears knowledge is that he understands and implements it, and also teaches the one who was absent. So at the minimum or the least, we should do those three. And I think that's suitable, especially the fact that he was talking about knowledge and ihsan. So perhaps if you want to apply that, then implement it by your actions, and then also teach it to the ones that you left at home. The first thing we'll do is we'll take some questions. Inshallah, we'll take the question from the brother's side first. And the sisters, if you can write down your questions and then put them together and send them through that door, we will also, inshallah, read them out, hopefully to be answered. So if there are any questions from the brother's side, inshallah, I think we can specifically for the topic first, and then also any question perhaps you have.
Not related to the topic.
Tayyib, are there questions that are first related to the topic, so that we keep the... Yes.
Inshallah, bring Brother Yusuf up to help me with the questions, inshallah. Sheikh Yusuf, bidnillah.
Yusuf,
Yeah.
Tafaddal.
You assist me, inshallah. Yalla. Bismillah. يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم درجات.
I think there was a question there, brother. Yes, go ahead.
Well, 1 second, inshallah. He's coming now, inshallah.
Get the first.
Fadda, go ahead.
Go ahead, ask, and then I'll repeat it.
In regards to the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, when he says, "Man salaka tariqan yaltamisu fihi ilman," is this relating to only a physical path, or is it anything in relation to books or lectures or anything like that?
Clear. واضح. طيب.
Just to repeat the question, the brother is asking about a specific hadith that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, the virtue of whoever takes a path to seek knowledge. So he asked the question, does that mean physically just going out and taking a path for knowledge, or does that include other things like books and sitting in lessons, etc.?
فافسحوا يفسح الله. طيب. Question is regarding the hadith of the Messenger of Allah عليه الصلاة والسلام. من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سلك الله به أو سلك الله له به طريقا إلى الجنة. Whoever treads a path in which he or she seeks knowledge, Allah will place them upon the path that leads to paradise. Is it an actual physical crude path only? طريق محسوس يعني بها محسوسة ملموسة, actual road, or is it anything? Can it mean anything quote unquote metaphorically as well? Any other way of ilm, such as a book, such as a lecture, etc. It really doesn't matter whether it's a road that you're walking upon or reading or something is given to you. What's meant by this hadith is tahsilul ilm. Tahsilul ilm is obtaining knowledge. And in those days, and even today to an extent, but not like back in the day, the only way or the main way that you could get knowledge was by walking or on a camel or a horse or a donkey or a mule. You had to travel. As Imam Malik rahimahullah was quoted to have said, إِنَّ الْعِلْمَ لَا يَأْتِي بَلْ يُؤْتَى إِلَيْهِ. Some people, they quote Malik to have said, knowledge doesn't come. You have to go towards it. You have to travel towards it. However, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He tells in the Quran, طيب, let's leave that alone for now, all right? Al-Muhim, al-Maqsood. What's important right now is our generation and the technology that we have, it suits us. It suits us. Our weakness. That's what I wanted to mention from the Quran. I want to talk about that right now. The weakness that Allah knows about from among us. Weakness. So Allah has made things easy. Allah has made things simple. Allah has given us technology. Allah has given us many marvels which allow us to learn and study and benefit from the comfort of our own homes. You can learn and listen in your car, on the airplane. Something that would take a person a month to get, a year to get. Allahu Alam, the dangers and the difficulties that a person had to go through. As Ash-Sha'bi rahimahullah ta'ala and others from the Kibar Tabi'een, they would say, خذوها من غير شيء وإن كان يرحل فيما دونها من مكة إلى المدينة. Some of them would narrate hadiths to their students and they would say to them, خذوها بغير شيء. They say, take it for free. تفضل. Even though in my times, my days, we traveled from Mecca to Medina to get something that wasn't as valuable. A faida that wasn't as juicy. You got a real juicy faida for free. But when I was a student, when I was a learner, when I was a disciple, I had to travel from one city to the next. Fi ma'ish dunaha. A faida that wasn't even as good as the one that you just got for free. So Allah's sunnah is that as time progresses, people become weaker, people become more relaxed or more comfortable with the opening of the worldly life, things are opened up for them. So bidnillah ta'ala, if you're walking, driving, flying, if you're on a boat, if it's on your phone, or any other means of obtaining ilm, and you're sincere, then bi'idhnillah ta'ala, you will be included in this hadith, a path towards Jannah. But of course, there's nothing like physical travel. And the scholars of Islam mention many other benefits of traveling besides actual tahsil al-ma'lumat. And the last thing I'm going to say in this answer, akhi, is that this is one of the most dangerous things today, is that the people, they wish to give a new understanding of the culture of seeking knowledge. And they say there's no point in you traveling overseas anymore. And there's no point of you buying physical books anymore. You have an iPad. You have a terabyte. A terabyte. You know how big, you know how much space a terabyte is? At the tip of your fingers. Why buy a library and spend all of that money and ship it back and all of those books? Well, you could just put it on your tablet. Didn't you just do the class reading from Ibn al-Qayyim from a tablet? So don't be hypocritical and tell us to buy books. This is the mentality that we have today. And people don't understand and they don't realize is that by you leaving your home and traveling overseas, traveling to a different land, a different country, even if it's another city, there are many benefits. And from those benefits is al-ghurba, is leaving your friends and your family members, which are a major means of distraction. A major means of distraction. And most importantly, sacrifice. Sitting at home, listening to a lecture, online academy, is not like you actually flying 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 miles. You having jet lag. You being harassed in the airport. You getting food poisoning overseas or bitten by a scorpion. It's not the same. The physical sacrifice that you put in to get that knowledge, you will appreciate more. You'll respect more. And you will have a greater value of that knowledge. As one of the mashayikh said, when he found that a student of knowledge who was studying for a higher degree, perhaps it was a master's degree or a doctor's degree, he read his book, he read his dissertation, his paper, and he wasn't pleased and he wasn't amazed. Once he heard that he had written the entire book with just a computer. He said, إِنَّ هَذِهِ الْأَجْهِزَةِ تُجَرِّئُ الْمُبْتَدِي وَتَقْطَعُ الْمُنْتَهِ. He says these computers and this technology, it gives the beginner audacity and gall. And it causes heartache and depression to the one who's finished. The one who spent 5 years in the library every day now sees that all of that work could have been done in 6 months on a computer. Taqta'u, it breaks him. Think about that. 5 years out of your life, like you're being in jail. 5 years out of your life, not eating properly, not sleeping properly, not seeing your wife and your children properly. You write in a bahth for your magister or your doctorate, and then you come along and see someone who did it in 6 months with a computer. You're going to feel like, oh man, what was all that for? And last but not least, and most important, he says, تُجَرِّئُ الْمُبْتَدِي. It gives the basic beginner learner the audacity to talk about things and to speak about things that he has not done. So people who talk, and they talk, and they talk, and they talk, ask one basic question. What rihla have you made, ya akhi? That's all I want to know. How long have you traveled for? Where did you travel towards? What tangible proof and evidence can you give me that you made rihla fi talab al-ilm? Because that is the way of the Salaf al-Salih. It's traveling to seek knowledge. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah says, Arba'atun la tu'nisu minhum rushdan. 4 people that you can never expect to succeed. And from those 4 people, he says, وَرَجُلٌ يَكْتُبُ الْحَدِيثَ فِي بَلَدِهِ وَلَا يَرْحَلُ فِيهِ. Is a man who studies hadith in his country and he doesn't travel to obtain them. So traveling, that was the mark of the people of knowledge. That was their culture. That was their sunnah. And that sunnah is not abrogated, nor is it outdated. It is not oblivious in 2019. But it doesn't mean that you can't learn from a computer. It doesn't mean that you can't learn from online. And it does not mean that that hadith does not apply to you. And Allah knows best.
Is your question related to the topic?
It's related to Ihsan. Ya Sheikh, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
With regards to the second meaning of Ihsan, in which you benefit people, there's a sentiment in this day which goes, don't light yourself on fire to keep people warm. So I just wanted to know, is there an extent of which you should go to help people? And even if it negatively affects your life, should you still strive towards that?
Clear. Tfadal. طيب. A very important question. Jazakallah khairan. Don't light yourself on fire to keep people warm. There's no doubt about that. There is a hadith which is, طيب. I'm not going to get into that right now. Al-Muhim. Do you harm yourself or put yourself in harm's way or dangerous way to help out others and to do good for others? Yes and no. Yes and no. Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. Something which is obligatory upon yourself, something which is from the fundamental rights of Allah upon you, no one can come first. No one can come first. As far as comfort, something which is voluntary, something which is an addition, something which is tahseen and kamal, it's extra, it's a garnish, you don't actually need it to eat and to survive, then you should light yourself on fire to keep others warm. So as a Muslim, we know that the Muslim should be selfless and at the same time selfish. Selfish and selfless. When it comes to Allah's rights over me, then I have to be selfish. I have no time, I'm sorry, I have to do something which is wajib upon myself. My family, the basic things that they need and require, I have to be selfish. I would love to answer your question, but I have to take care of my young daughter. I have to do this. As far as my presence isn't needed right now in the hospital, as far as I have enough food and drink, basic nutrition, I could obtain more, I could get more, but it's a means of me not having the time to answer your question or to teach you or to travel to another country, then that is when you must be selfless. And that is, you must go through the difficulties and the hardships to serve Allah's deen, if that's the path that you choose for yourself. So therefore, the giving of wealth, and you haven't made Hajj yet, of course you don't light yourself on fire to keep others warm. You don't give charity, you don't build an orphanage, and you didn't make Hajj yourself yet. But you've made Hajj once. I've done Hajj, and I have another a bulk of money that could be influential in helping this orphanage being established. Now you become selfless. And that's because you're helping 100 orphans versus your own personal Hajj. You've made the Hajj of Islam already, khalas. It's a beautiful thing to make Hajj again, there's no doubt about that. But now you're helping 50 orphans, 100 widows. You give that money and you light yourself on fire, quote unquote, to keep those others what? Warm. So there's a time in which you do, and there's a time in which you what? Which you don't. Wallahu a'lam. With regards to Ihsan.
The brother here. Also, sisters, please, if you've written down questions, there's a door just in front of you there, the brown door. If you just open it and put the...
Fadda. Bismillah.
The question is, how does one combat laziness?
Should I take it? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. With regards to combating laziness, then first of all, I think it's important to have the greatest form of knowledge, and that is knowledge of your own self. Knowing exactly what makes you lazy, what causes this problem in your life, and combating it that way. So it's quite subjective. I don't know any hadith or any ayah which says do X, Y, and Z to remove laziness. But it's about knowing what makes you lazy and what causes you these problems and working on that. But as anything that we do in our lives, asking Allah for His aid and His assistance and taking the practical steps that we find in the Quran and Sunnah, and Allah knows best. The Shaykh wants to add something.
No, I didn't want to answer that question because ما المسؤول عنها بأعلم من السائل. We all are fighting laziness, all of us, starting with myself. تفضل.
Next question.
جزاك الله خيرا. أحسنت. لا. في الخير وبركة. الله أكبر. لن يخطئك.
So many books of knowledge today. There's so many. Where do we start from first, and how many should we study and revise? And which are the first books that we should actually study and revise?
So the question is, where do we start when it comes to knowledge? Practically. I remember the first time myself, Brother Mufti and Sheikh Abu Usama and Sheikh Tahir, the first time all four of us got together in Medina, the topic of discussion was the services that the particular Sheikh put forward for all of us in different ways throughout our journeys. And one of the brothers mentioned a famous statement from Hassan al-Basri that he said, if Allah wants good for you, He guides you to the right appropriate teacher that can take you by the hand and give you that mentoring. So I don't think it's about which book do we start with, because of course the book of Allah comes before anything. But if Allah guides you to the right mentor and the right people, then that inshallah should protect you and they'll set you up the correct curriculum, and Allah knows best. The Sheikh wants to add.
Okay, Jazakallahu khair, the brother there.
Yeah, could I just want you to just briefly give a comment on regards to the importance nowadays of you not following certain people that are saying the people of knowledge just based on their personality or how that easily influence or the way they speak with the words. And if you don't mind me asking, I just want your opinion on Mufti Meng's comments with the Danish news reporter regarding when he was questioned if it's okay to be homosexual, if it's okay to shake a woman's hand, and he totally went against the Quran and the Sunnah just to please her.
Clear.
Could you just clarify on that and what your opinion in regards to
Tight. With regards to the danger of youth falling into personality attachment, or others may say personality worship or hero worship, being fanatical or falling in love, sensationalizing people because of their character, or not character, but their personality, shakhsiyatihim, whom they are. He's a lofty person, a good speaker, eloquent speaker, he's hip, he's cool, popular, etc., etc., etc. What advice could you give to them, etc.? I would say that knowledge is the ultimate goal, not the person. Knowledge is the goal. People bear knowledge and wield knowledge, but you don't actually study with a teacher because of the teacher himself, what he looks like, tall, short, dark, light, thick, thin. That's irrelevant. I'm only sitting with you because you are the vessel of that knowledge. You're the vessel. So if I say, have some tea, brother, we say, oh, that's a very nice flask. It's thermos. What type of steel is it? How many ounces does it hold? How much did you pay for it? How long does it keep it hot for, etc.? And you begin to make a long discussion and discourse about the thermos. And you didn't even try the tea. What's inside? How good is the tea? What type of tea is it? Etc. The most important thing and the most significant thing is the content, the contents of the flask. However, of course, you cannot obtain the tea, its sweetness, how hot and how warm it is, unless you have a good vessel. So the vessel, attention must be paid there too. You have to respect it. You have to know what type of vessel it is to keep the tea warm and etc. But it isn't the main thing. So you respect the teacher. You love the teacher for the sake of Allah. You follow the teacher because the person is upon Quran and Sunnah. And they're calling you to the Quran and the Sunnah. وَإِذَا دُعُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. When they're called to Allah and His Messenger. هذا هو. They're not calling you to themselves. They're calling to call Allah, call Rasulullah. That's what's important. And that's what you stick to. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, the most important, I think, one of the most important characteristics of a teacher, a true teacher, is what a wise man once said when he was asked, how does a student repay his teacher? What can you possibly do to repay and give back to the one who took you in, who taught you, who nurtured you, who mentored you, who gave you the greatest piece of gold possibly to be given? You know what this wise person, he said? He says, the only way that you can possibly repay your teacher is to no longer be a student. No longer be his student. That's the way that you repay your teacher, by divorcing your teacher. The way that you show your love and your respect and your gratitude is by humbly and respectfully telling him, Sheikh, Jazakallahu khairan, I'm no longer your student. I.e., you've reached a level of independence through his teachings. And that is the goal and the mark of a true teacher. I don't want you to follow me. I don't need you to follow me. Do not follow me. All I have done is got a head start in the race. That's it. I went overseas before you did. That's it. I learned a few things when you didn't know. I want you to catch up to me. These are the books. These are the universities. These are my mashayikh. You learn with them and do what? You cut me out the middle. As far as a person who wants you to be attached to them, who wants you to be their lackey all of the time, through me, beneath me, under me, what I say, so what I think, then that's the sign of a bad teacher and a fake teacher, an imposter. But a true ustadh is a person who wants to educate you, enlighten you, and remove themselves from the picture. Tafadhal, this is where we read it from. And that's why we read these different books. Masail, Fulan, Ibn al-Qayyim. It's not from me. This is the book, this is the work. You read it yourselves. And the four imams, they would say this. خُذُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَخَذْنَا. خُذُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَخَذْنَا. Take from where we have taken. So therefore, that's I would say one of the most important characteristics of a true teacher is someone who does not allow and accept personality worship. And they do not want you to cling and clutch and attach themselves to you. If you find a teacher that has this creed, that's calling the students to learn and to benefit themselves and not just take from them, then inshallah ta'ala, that's a good teacher. And if you find the opposite, then perhaps that's the sign of a bad teacher, and young brothers and sisters perhaps could be warned therefrom. As far as the second part of your question, with regards to a statement of Mufti Mink to a Danish reporter or journalist about homosexuality, and that a person can be a homosexual and it's okay, and he supposedly went against the Quran and the Sunnah, etc., then I would say to you two things, bi'idhnillah. The first thing is, anyone who watches HadithDisciple, he knows that we do not allow these types of questions. And which says, what's your opinion about Fulan? Or what do you think about this person? Or what is your view about this brother or this Fulan and Fulan and Fulan? And the reason why we don't answer these type of questions, not that we don't have an opinion, or we don't know the answer, or it may not, or it isn't a benefit, but it becomes messy and sticky when we start saying yes and no, up and down, right and left. He praises him, he praises him, he praises, he dispraises, and next you know it's a food fight like we have today. And if you look at people who don't have that much knowledge, I'm being from among them, but people who proclaim and profess to have a great deal of knowledge, but they really don't, you find that they thrive off of this. And every single lecture is such and such said, such and such said, such and such praised us, such and such praised us, and the like, and this brother has praised. That's all it is. There's no actual content. There's nothing that's meaty and weighty inside of it. And they're just relying on clout. That's all they rely on is clout. Why can't we check? Because Fulan said this about him, and Fulan said that about him. And that's what their knowledge becomes. So we don't like to do that because it becomes sticky and messy and it becomes childish, and which is nothing but a name game, just throwing back and forth. Sheikh Fulan, Sheikh Fulan. What happens when Sheikh Fulan is now refuted and criticized? Then what? And that's exactly what has happened. Once? No. Twice? How many times now over the years? Over and over and over again. As some of the ulama, some of the salaf, they would say this. Man ja'ala dinahu urdatan. It says whoever always gets into these types of arguments and this type of jidal, akthara tanakul. He's going to bounce around a lot. One day he's here, one day this scholar, one day, and he's never ever upon anything certain. So that's first and foremost. However, due to the fact that that's such a serious claim, and the other day, alhamdulillah, I got the chance to meet Mufti Mink in person. I'll tell you this, and I'll say this. I'll break the rules just a little bit for you. He personally explained to me, and he has no need to explain anything to me. He's older than me. He doesn't have to explain anything to me, but he did. He said, I never ever said or claimed, and I never ever allowed homosexuality in Islam. I believe, and what I actually told the reporter and a journalist is that homosexuality and lesbianism, gender changing, and all these things are haram. It's a major sin and it's an abomination, and it is not allowed in Islam. I never ever said that. But what I did say is that we live in secular lands, Western lands, in which the golden principle of the Western civilization is freedom of religion. So if you want to be a homosexual, go ahead. Meaning, that's not the Sharia, that's not Allah and His Messenger, the ruling of the Kitab and the Sunnah. That's your own personal preference. That is your discretion. I have no authority, I have no sultan over you. I don't have the ability to do anything to you, verbally, physically, because you wish to have a same-sex sexual orientation. That's what he said to me. And I don't believe in my heart that a Muslim who believes in the law in the last day, the Quran and the Sunnah, let alone someone who's knowledgeable and learned, would say that homosexuality is allowed in Islam. Abadan. I don't think any Muslim who has who has the lightest, smallest fragrance of knowledge, the width, would say that you can be a homosexual according to Quran and Sunnah. So the last thing that I will say, and that is that if you've ever done an interview with a reporter or a journalist, anyone who's ever done an interview, you know that reporters and journalists, they never quote everything that you say. They never transcribe it word for word in the article. They're writing it down with their Parker, right? The jotter, right? They have the voice recorder. But everything that you say does not reach the news. This is a fact. And anyone who's ever done an article or an interview, he knows that this is a reality. They slice, they cut, and they edit, and they put in what they want to put in. And we know that words can be misconstrued. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, he mentioned this. Most of the people's different is pertaining to the what? The linguistics, what people say and how it's interpreted. So therefore, I have good thoughts for any Muslim, let alone someone, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, who's been blessed by Allah to have knowledge and have a benefit for humans, not just Muslims. That's what I think you should do, is to have the best thoughts and to find an excuse and search for an excuse for your brother. And I don't think that you should ever think about any speaker or sheikh or scholar is that he's going to say that you can be a homosexual in Islam and there's nothing wrong with it in Islam, and so on and so forth. Rather, the Quran and the Sunnah affirms. The Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّ مِمَّا أَدْرَكَ النَّاسُ مِنْ كَلَامِ النُّبُوَّةِ الْأُولَى إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي إِيش فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. The Prophet ﷺ says, if you have no shyness, do as you please. And that is not an allowance for a person to what? Do as he pleases. Allah mentions this in the Quran. Those who wish to believe, believe. And those who wish to disbelieve, let them what? فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Let them disbelieve. إِنَّا أَعْتَدْنَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ. Allah says we prepare for the wrongdoers. A terrible punishment. Does one say that you can be a kafir according to the Quran? No. That's an usloob. If you want to be a kafir, faddal. You want to be a homosexual? You can do that. Meaning, not according to my creed and what I believe in, and not according to the Western society. Under any circumstances, that means it's okay, and I am giving a fatwa that it's okay to be a homosexual in Islam. Abadan. I don't believe he said that. I don't believe his words even يحتمل هذا المعنى أصلا. That can even be interpreted to mean that. Rather, I believe that he said, and Allah knows best, that if you want to be a homosexual, it's okay. Meaning, I walk down the street as a Muslim. I can't throw you off a tower. It's not that type of situation. There is no type of capital punishment that I can implement on you. And I've been asked this question many times in the United States. And people have asked about homosexuals. What do we do with homosexuals? How do we deal with homosexuals? And I've given similar answers. I walk into a store, someone's a homosexual, they're the clerk or the cleric or the one working behind the desk. Good afternoon, how are you doing? I'm looking for such and such, aisle 6, thank you. That's it. Who you sleep with, that don't concern me. I don't want to know what you do. If I'm on an airplane, how many airplanes we been at, I would say? And the guy serving the food and drink had a broken arm, literally. A man with a broken arm, walking up and down the house. Wallah al-azim, I lie to you not. What I'm going to say, curse you, don't walk past my aisle. That's not my job. And if there was a neighbor, once I was asked, who's a homosexual, and people there doing wrong to that neighbor's house, breaking in his house, vandalizing his property, I have a duty and a job as a neighbor, not as someone who agrees with this man or this woman's sexual orientation. Evident, because we don't live in that type of environment. What I feel, what I believe, What I know from the Quran and the Sunnah is totally different because we're living in the United Kingdom. I live in the United States. We don't live in the dawla of this imam and of this khalifa. That's not how we live. Under any circumstances, that mean is that it's okay. So there's a difference. لابد أن نفرق بين هذا وذاك وأن لا نخلط بين هذه المسائل. We don't mix things up irresponsibly. That's what I think, and Allah surely knows best.
Can we maybe take one more?
طيب.
Two more questions. Okay, now more hands are going up. Brothers, are you okay taking a few more?
لا بأس. تفضل.
Okay, brother at the back. Yes.
You mentioned your rules that you have for your HadithDisciple Q&A session. So it's an example of discipline. So how would you instill good discipline in our community so that to decrease the amount of fitna that we have?
Clear. With regards to discipline and sticking to certain rules, how would you help us out to obtain this discipline to reduce the fitna? Well, I would say this. Humans are going to differ. There's no doubt about that reality. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ. Allah says they will continue to differ. Al-Irbad ibn Sariyah radiallahu anhu narrated in the famous well-known hadith. They visited the Prophet ﷺ. They asked for advice. He gave them an admonition. They thought it was the end of the Prophet's time. And he told them to fear Allah. أوصيكم بتقوى الله والسمع والطاعة وأن تأمر عليكم عبد فإنه من يعيش منكم فسيرى اختلافا كثيرا. He says, anyone who lives for a good period of time, anyone who lives after me for some years, will see an abundance of differing, an abundance of bickering. And we know this is min a'lam al-nubuwah. The Prophet ﷺ, he said this, and when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ left this world, وَالْتَحَقَ بِالرَّفِيقِ الْأَعْلَى إِحْصَانٌ. Difference from the time of the Sahaba up until this day. So there's no doubt about that. Humans are going to differ. So can we eliminate and remove difference? I think that this is something which is going against the nature of the human. For us to say no khilaf whatsoever. Abadan. Can we minimize it? Yes. Can we control it and regulate it? Yes. And I think from the most important principles of minimizing and controlling the ikhtilaf is weeding out and selecting and sifting. 50 people are hollering, screaming, shouting, refuting. This one, that one, fulan, alan. Everyone's against each other, right? 50 people. And maybe they actually have some real differences, some core differences, some real serious stuff that's going on, right? But I guarantee, if you looked at the credentials, if you look at the background, and if you look at the qualifications of these 50 people hollering and shouting and screaming, you can minimize them to 10. 40 of them don't have no place with a microphone in their hands, or a pen, or a PDF, or any type of platform to speak and to talk about another Muslim, let alone a student of knowledge, let alone a scholar, let alone a country, let alone this. And I guarantee at least 40, maybe even 45 of them have no business talking about this. And it allows no doubt, if we have 10 people discussing and differing versus 50, it's relatively easier. And in most cases, get everyone to lower their voices just a bit. And perhaps one of the greatest steps towards peace is you putting down your weapon. Just put down your gun for a second. And maybe that'll have an effect. So when we have so many people hollering and shouting and screaming, we need to weed out. These weeds don't belong in this garden. It's not enough space for them. Weeds are harmful to the flowers. Only flowers and weeds, it's just not going to work. Flowers belong here, not weeds. So I have to sift out. So let's make an example. Just a simple example. The last thing I'll say to you, simple example. How much ikhtilaf would it be in the UK if we said the only people who are allowed to warn or to explain or to refute are those who have graduated from some type of university? It doesn't have to be Medina. It can be in Egypt. It can be in Timbuktu. It could be in Central Africa. It could be from Chad. Any Islamic university. If you have a degree, then you are allowed to discuss and talk about these things. Who would accept this condition? They wouldn't accept it. They would raise all types of rank. This is a bit, you can't make this condition. Imam Ahmad never said this. And they would say anything in their power because they know that that is a major weeding out process. You may be right, you may be correct, but it's too much khilaf. We have to minimize it. And anytime you wish to minimize something, you have to standardize the thing. So therefore, anyone who hasn't graduated, Jazakallah khairan, you can sit on the side. Only the graduates can step forth and discuss this issue. وهكذا. So you have to make a realistic solution of minimizing the fitna. And from that, bid'nillahi ta'ala, is avoiding to entertain it. Abdul Aziz ibn Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala, Sheikh ibn Baz, he mentions that the responsibility of the one who has brought namima is to reject it and to tell the namam, ittaqillah. And you cannot listen to the namam because the namam is a fasiq. And a fasiq is not to be respected, let alone have his statement taken and even considered. You don't even entertain the namima. Brother Funan, jazakallah khairan. Shukran. Thank you. Have a great day. But it's true, I'm sure it is. But right now, you're an imam. You're causing fitna. You're splitting people up. Jazakallah, I have nothing to say to you. And Allah surely knows best.
I would like to ask you, how do we know that the knowledge we're getting is beneficial?
How do I know that the knowledge I'm getting is beneficial? Like I said in the lecture, how do you feel afterwards? مَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ لِتَشْقَى. How do you feel after the lecture? You feel good? You feel happy? You feel better Muslim than how you came? Or you feel hype and you want to do some type of harm to another Muslim? Say something about a Muslim, bring another Muslim down. Does it elevate you or does it turn you into someone who's aggressive against the people who are closest to you? There are many ways of knowing that knowledge is beneficial. And inshallah ta'ala, I would say that's one of those ways. Another way, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is the teacher and the nature of the teacher. The teacher wants to attach you to himself and his organization, or he wishes to attach you to the proofs and the evidences and for you to go on your own path of enlightenment. And there are other ways as well. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, brothers, it's getting late. The brothers here will take his last question and we'll end there because we don't want to keep them here too long. It's getting late and I'm sure all of you have to go as well. They travel from far. So last question and that's it.
الحديث الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم هذا فرض عين وفرض كفاية لكل مسلم هذا الذي نريد تفسيره.
طيب جزاك الله خيرا. طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم على معنيين، لكن المعنى الأول والأشهر هو العلم العيني الذي تصح به عقيدة المسلم، العلم الذي تصح به عبادة المسلم من الطهارة والحجاب وما تصح به صلاته، الزكاة، الحج إلى آخره، الأساسيات، الأصول الضرورية للمسلم. وأي فعل يزاولها المسلم إذا أراد أن يتزوج، إذا أراد أن يتاجر، إذا أراد أن يسافر إلى آخره، ما يلزمه، ما يتوجب عليه، هذا فريضة على إيش؟ كل مسلم. أما الطلب يعني الكفائي فهو كما يقول أهل العلم المسلم الذي لمس أو يعني نظر ووجد من نفسه قدرة على التعلم وعلى التحصيل وأن بلده في حاجة إلى أن يكون فيهم عالم فقيه متفوق يبلغ درجة فوق مستوى الآخرين. في كل قرية لازم يكون هناك على الأقل فقيه واحد، قارئ واحد، محدث من يحسن فهم أحاديث الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم واحد على الأقل. فلم يجد من يقوم هذا بهذا الفعل ويسد هذا الفراغ ووجد من نفسه القدرة وشيء من الموهبة أن الله عز وجل أعطاه ذكاء وحفظا وأعطاه يعني إلى آخره، فإنه قد يجب عليه أن يرحل ويطلب من العلم ما يعني يكون أكثر من القدر العيني الواجب الأصلي الذي هو واجب على كل مسلم. هذا ما يقوله أهل العلم باختصار في معنى هذا الحديث المشهور، والعلم عند الله تعالى.
Okay, we will end here. Jazakumullahu khairan to the brother, the Ustad, for coming and sharing with us, and hopefully we will meet again